Anybody's in here, we're just getting set up. Not 0 viewers. Hey there, everyone. How is y'all's night going so far? We're going to be doing something a little bit different tonight in regard to talking about Brian. We are going to talk about Brian, but I'm trying something a little bit different. Hey, Leah. See, I remember. There's a little bit different, and I'll show you guys. It's kind of a surprise, sort of. Y'all may like it, y'all may not, but I'll show it to you, and we are going to discuss. I know a lot of people have had questions about the affidavit. I know a lot of people want to talk about the roommate. So, yeah. So hey there. You're a drug dealer too. Awesome. We're not doing a house tour tonight, no. So basically, I think you guys have heard me start to talk about YouTube, right? So I don't exactly know what the hell I'm doing. Thank you guys for the follows. But as you know, it can get a little crazy in here. I am also live on YouTube at the moment, and I have 3 viewers in here. So TikTok over here as well. I would do a live with I'm Petty London if she wanted to. But what we're going to do is let me flip the camera and I'll show you. And if you want to jump over to YouTube, there is a link in my, not right now, she's dealing with the kid. This is what's on my screen. And you see there I am. So if y'all want to jump onto YouTube, you can see the affidavit, which I have pulled up on the screen here. We can go through it. And then there's a chat here, which has a lot less people. There's 1,000 people here and there's 3 people on YouTube. So if y'all want to, if y'all can see it, great, stay. If you want to jump over to YouTube, you can, and then there's a chat, and yeah. So we can start talking about this. Username on YouTube is the same as it is on here, Justin on TikTok, but you can also get to it through my bio in my profile. But part of the reason I'm doing this for 2 reasons. One is I like, Banfield's going to be in about an hour, and I will switch to Banfield. So yeah, we're about to go over all of this right now. I figured that's why I'd come on early so we can answer questions, have a discussion about it, because it is lengthy. I've already read through it completely, and we'll go from there. But as I said, I'm doing stuff over here so I can throw it up on the screen a little bit better, and TikTok likes to give me a ban, right? So I'm going to have an account warning. The next one I could lose features, so I'm going to try to start doing a little bit more on YouTube. So I guess if you guys are ready, we will go ahead and jump right into it. So y'all can see up here, I'll try to smooth this over here so I can see the chat too with you guys. So this is the start of it. It's talking about, there's a few parts I really want to do it. This is basically just talking about on page 1, when they got there, the person who wrote the report, which is Sergeant Blaker. I heard a noise, I don't know what that means, but I think, thank you. Well, thank you guys, I appreciate it. Talking about the King Road residence, talked about the hallway, which we're going to talk, which I want you to think about the hallway here. I'm going to go page by page and discuss it. That's what I'm going to do. They redacted a little parts of the affidavit. But before I go further, actually, let me say this, because a lot of people would ask questions about what's going on with the affidavit. And as far as like evidence, is this all we have at the moment? Basically, what I learned from lawyer Carrie Jernigan, who I love, very trusted source, and thank you guys on both sides, everybody, for the follows, by the way. They probably have significantly more information than what we are seeing here, and they're probably keeping it still pretty close to the vest. So they just needed enough to put in this affidavit to show that they have the right guy, and to show that he needs to be held without bond. Right, that's what we have going on. So they talk about how they're going to start going through this. They learn with how the rooms were. We can kind of skip that. We know how, through driver's license. They talk about the layout of the house. They learn about the dog. They're talking about that. The dog belonged to Kaylee and her ex-boyfriend, Jack D. They found out through an interview with Jack D that they share the dog. I don't know if that's important, but I'm gonna tell y'all anyways after that. They said that when they entered Maddie's room, they saw 2 females in a single bed. Both were deceased with visible stab wounds. He also later noticed what appeared to be a tan leather knife sheath, which is where they got the DNA. I always use a projector in here when I even stream Banfield. Yeah, this is a projector. I'm going to address the roommates. Thank you for the person who just said, thank you, Leah. So anyways, talking about the stab wounds, the sheath is what found, I guess, the DNA. And it was actually really fascinating how they did this. So we're going to discuss all of it. It was the sheath for a K-bar, and it had the Marine Corps Eagle globe on it and anchor insignia stamped on the outside of it. So it was military K-bar, basically, for the Marines, right? They've done a lot of investigation, or a lot of interviews. Two of the other interviews included the roommates. They say BF and DM, so we know that BF is Bethany. We know that DM is Dylan. I know there's a lot of questions about Dylan, and I'm going to definitely address that in length, right? So we'll get there in a second. All right, we're going to go down now. We're on page 3. It's talking about basically a timeline. So on the evening of November 12th, Ethan and Zana were both seen by Bethany at the Sigma Chi house. Gives the address, approximately 9 p.m. until about 1:45 in the morning. It's on the 13th. It's also estimated that at approximately 1:45 a.m., Ethan and Zana returned to the King Road residence. Bethany also stated that Ethan did not live at the residence he was visiting. For Kaylee and Maddie, they were at a local bar, the Corner Club. Most of us already knew that. In Moscow, they were seen on video footage provided by the Corner Club between 10 p.m. and 1:30 a.m. on the 12th through 13th. At approximately 1:30 a.m., Kaylee and Maddie can be seen on video at the Grub Truck. And the Grub Truck, which I thought was pretty cool because I did not know this, they live stream everything. So, which is cool. I just think it's cool they do it on Twitch. That's pretty awesome. It's available for public viewing, etc. It really, the only redacted part, so if you look right here where the cursor is on here, which you can't see on here, but the part that's under private property, you can't see it on the projector. You can only see it maybe here. But right, a private party blank, that's a redacted name. Reported that he provided a ride to Kaylee and Maddie at about 1:56 from downtown back home. So both Dylan and Bethany made statements that indicated that everybody was back at home by basically 2 a.m. and asleep, or at least in their rooms by 4 a.m. With the exception of Zana, who received a DoorDash, which this is significant. So I'm sure a lot of y'all have heard this, but Zana received a DoorDash order at the residence at approximately 4 a.m. Okay? They did identify the DoorDash delivery driver, and I believe they spoke with him as well. So Dylan stated that she originally went to sleep in her bedroom, and she was woken at about 4 a.m. by what she said sounded like Kaylee playing with her dog in the upstairs bedroom, which was on the 3rd floor. A short time later, Dylan said that she heard who she thought was Kaylee say something to the effect of, "There's someone here." And a review of records obtained from a forensics download of Xana's phone showed that it could have also been, she was on TikTok at the time, basically. In fact, I think, based on what I'm reading here, her phone was like open to TikTok when she died. But that was at approximately 4:12 a.m. So remember, she had a DoorDash order come around 4 a.m. and then at 4:12, she's using TikTok, right? So, and if you are on my YouTube side, please give me a follow. Once I get to a certain amount of followers, either 500, I'm going to say 500, I'll start doing podcasts on here. And I promise I'll actually start doing them this time. I've already got a couple people lined up to do it with me. So then Dylan stated that she looked out of her bedroom but did not see anything when she heard the comment about somebody being in the house. She opened her door a second time when she heard what she thought was crying coming from Zana's room. Dylan then said she heard a male voice say something to the effect of, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." I'm wondering, again, I'm not trying to speculate, I'm wondering if that was Brian and it was some sick, effed up way of, like, I'm going to help you by taking your life, kind of like a Joe from You kind of scenario where he thinks he's being helpful, but it's really just sick AF. So at approximately 4:17 in the morning, security camera located at the King Road house, at 1112 King Road house, which is a residence to the northwest. So basically right next door to to the, for lack of a better term, murder house. Picked up distorted audio of what sounded like voices or a whimper followed by a loud thud. A dog can also be heard barking numerous times starting at 4:17 a.m. The camera is less than 50 feet from the west wall of Xana's bedroom. Okay, so let's talk about that. We don't know what the voices were, the whimper that the camera caught. The dog is Murphy barking, right? So a lot of people asked earlier on when this is going on, can you not believe the dog barked? Even I had the discussion, like, doodles don't really bark, but apparently Murphy did bark. Dylan stated she opened the door for the third time after she heard crying and saw a figure clad in black clothing and a mask that covered the person's mouth and nose walking towards her. Dylan described the figure as 5'10" or taller. Brian's about 6 feet. Not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows. That describes Brian. The male walked past Dylan as she stood in a frozen shock phase. I'm using air quotes for those of you not on the YouTube thing. The male walked towards the back sliding glass door, and Dylan locked herself in her room after seeing the male. Dylan did not state that she recognized the male, and this leads to investigators to believe that the murderer left the scene. So let's pause here and let's talk about this, okay? So the first thing that I can tell you based on what we've seen, all right, of the house is that, oh, thank you for the gifts, by the way, is when he walked by her and she's standing there in that frozen state. We're going to come to that, Kim. We're going to come to that. When she comes to that frozen state, he was inches from her, right? He was inches from walking. Your doodle barked at his own shadow. That's funny. I have a dog that, side note, our King Charles Cavalier goes to the shower door and barks at his own reflection, so I get that. But they were inches from apart. Inches, right? So basically, she's standing there in a frozen state, and look, I am with y'all. I'm trying really hard not to jump to conclusions. You guys know that I don't really like to speculate, and I don't like to blame people because I know that can upturn their lives. You know, Rose Davis is a great example of that. We had her on last night talking a little bit about that. But, and by the way, for those of y'all who are coming to see a lot of people in here, if you want to have questions seen a little bit easier, I have 54 viewers in the chat on YouTube. It's the same. You can get to my YouTube through my link tree in my bio, which is what I'm showing up on the screen as my own YouTube. This is my first time using YouTube, so that's how I'm doing it. So if y'all want to. Anyways, so I don't want to jump to conclusions. I try to rack my brain to find logical reasons as to why this would have happened, and it wasn't until the next morning, 8, 9, 10 hours later, or not even, we know that they were called around noon, so 4 a.m. You're talking around, 6 to 8 hours later, she didn't make a phone call, she went to sleep, is what we're making that assumption. There's a couple things that I can maybe think of. The only thing that I can possibly think of that would be logical in this situation with the information that we have now is that we know that a 911 call was made because somebody was passed out. What if we've had it wrong the whole time, our guessing, our assumptions, our speculations? What if Dylan was the one that was passed out? Okay, that's possible. There also is probably more information about this that we don't know about. Okay, obviously, like I said before, they're giving us just enough information here, to make sure that Brian is held. And so, anyway, that's the best thing I could think of. She passed out and then was asleep. But I don't know. Hopefully we will find out more information when they feel it is okay to tell us that we need. Josh over here asked a good question, or said a good question / statement. I wonder if he didn't kill her because he didn't know her. I don't know if he knew them or not, but part of me wonders, Josh, and this is me speculating. I just want to make sure that this is crystal clear, that this is complete speculation. That I almost wonder if it was maybe a ploy to try to implicate the roommates. That she was so close to him, he walked right past her, walked out the sliding glass door. But the thing is, we don't know what happened, and be cautious on passing judgment, because it's very easy for us to sit here looking at this scenario, this horrific, horrific crime, okay, and say, okay, this is what should have happened, this is what she should have done. We did not live it. You're talking about what if they witnessed, depending on what they witnessed something that only one would see in a horror movie. We don't know if Dylan knew them. We don't know what the connection is yet. So we know that Dylan's not a suspect. We know that she's not in custody. She's been cleared. So I don't know. I'm trying just to be respectful about it because we don't know what we don't know. So we know that, well, Mackenzie, we know how close they were together physically in the house because if you look at the hallway and the size of it, where she's describing, they would have been inches apart when he passed her, maybe a foot, 2 max. So I don't really know. It's just guess, but I would just say refrain from judging till we know more. That's all I'm going to say. So let's go on. The combination of Dylan's statements to law enforcement, reviews of forensic downloads of records from Bethany and Dylan's phone, and video of a suspect of a video described below leads investigators to believe the homicides occurred between 4 a.m. and 4:25 a.m. Okay, so in a 25-minute window, remembering that Zaina got her DoorDash around 4 a.m. Okay, so she was awake. So whatever happened, Zaina was awake during this, guys. And that's what I wonder if... Well, I'll get back to my theory on that in a little bit. Let me go through some of the more of this. During the process of the crime scene, investigators found a latent shoe print that was located during the second processing of the crime scene. And they first used a preemptive blood test and then amino black. I thought this was really cool. A protein stain which detects the presence of cellular material. I thought that was awesome. I did not know that existed, and it's cool. The detected shoe print showed a diamond-shaped pattern similar to the pattern of a Vans type shoe sole. And this was just outside the door of Dylan's bedroom, which is located on the second floor, and this is consistent with Dylan's statement regarding the suspect's path of travel. All right. And for those of y'all, if you guys want me to see questions a little bit sooner, as you can see, there's 2,100 people on TikTok. In the YouTube chat, there is 77, so I can see things a little bit easier. So if you guys want to go over there and follow me there, it would be great. I'm trying to build that presence a little bit more in case TikTok bans me, which they like to do all the time. You can get to, it's Justin on TikTok, on YouTube, and it's also, you can get to that through the link tree in my bio. I'm going to stop there for a second. I'm going to look at some of the questions on both sides. I'm going to start with YouTube because they're stationary, and then we'll go from there. So let me see what you guys have here. All right. Do you think he was in a fog after killing 4 people and just didn't notice her? Great question, Dina. I honestly don't think he was in a, well, I think, again, personal opinion, I don't want anybody to go out and say what I'm going to say here is fact, but personal opinion is I think that he was riding a high, the high that we hear about that people who do those types of things, serial killers do, they get a high off of the kill. So I think that it's very possible that he was riding off that. I think that he probably did see her. I mean, whether he was that close or not, I'm sure she was terrified, beyond terrified. But I mean, it's obviously he was possibly in some kind of fog or transition state or euphoric in his mind high. She was standing in the doorway. He didn't see her just because she was trying to get out so fast. Maybe, but he also said the footprint. They also just said here the footprint was right in front of that bedroom, just outside her bedroom. So if she was standing in the doorway, he still would have probably saw her. But we don't know if she tried texting any of the roommates. So ask if they saw or heard anything. We just know a call came from the roommate's phone the next day. That's right. That goes back to what we were talking about. We don't know what we don't know. The police gave us only what they think we needed to hear, or what the judge needed to hear to keep him in custody. The fog and exhausted. Thank you guys for coming over from TikTok. I appreciate y'all. Please give it a follow while you're here, if you don't mind. I'm going to try to start doing more of this stuff as I learn how to do this. I love the fact that I can throw this thing up here and go through it this way. Do we know which victims passed first or the order they were killed? We don't, Ashley. That's a great question. And I kind of thought I had a theory, but every time I think I have a theory on that, I go back and forth. Yeah, if the DoorDash was... Well, I think... okay, so here somebody said this is a good talking point. Could you imagine if the DoorDash would have been only a few minutes later? So he was in the area for a while before he went in and did what he did. He was in the area for a while. I think that maybe the DoorDash driver coming and going, he utilized that as his opportunity. That's what I think. So that's a good. That I don't know if you guys think that that's way off base, but I think that's kind of my personal opinion. People need to go easy. Luke says people need to go easy on Dylan. She probably has such a run. Oh yeah, Luke, I agree with you. I think that Dylan probably has immense survivor's guilt. I don't think there's an amount of therapy that you can do that will get you through what she has witnessed. Sent you a TikTok on IG talking about. Okay, I'll take a look at that, Megan. Thank you. How many pages are redacted? I think there's only parts of the pages redacted. I haven't seen any full pages redacted, except for maybe one, which is the second page. But that could have also been a filler page. Do I think he killed before? As sloppy as this seems to have been, I don't know if he killed before, or at least not a person. At least not a person. What are the odds the only footprint was right outside Dylan's door? I know it's weird, but that's the path of travel that he had. Plus, you got to remember that they discovered this footprint on the second processing of the crime scene. So after people had already gone there, so the other footprints could have been walked away, just by travel and people coming in and out. I think. Thank you for coming from Tic Tac, Sherry. I appreciate it. I know you said that way for it to be funny. What is he? Their drug dealer? Y'all are now starting to scroll a little bit in here. Let me go back a little bit. I want to. He was very sloppy for a PhD student. Okay, what I should try. Okay, there we go. He was sloppy for a PhD student of criminology. I think he was a little bit sloppy. One thing that somebody said at some point during this whole process, I think it was on Ashley Banfield, and we will watch Banfield in about 40 minutes, by the way. But actual field experience is going to trump academia any day. You can learn about everything in a book, but it doesn't mean that you can go ahead and implement it because you learned it in a book. And that's, I think, what happened here. He made a lot of mistakes, and we're going to get into some of those. He forgot to take the knife sheath. Yeah, well, and wait till we get to the phone records too. All right, so I'm going to try to come back to these. I want to look at TikTok real quick and give these guys some attention too over here. What is your theory as to how it happened? I don't really know at this moment. I'm just going to try to guess a couple of these and we'll go back through this. Yeah, we'll hear why as she testifies, if she testifies. If not, we'll hear more, I'm sure. Okay, so we're going to continue on this real quick. So, we talked about the shoe print. Oh, let me get that pulled back up. Where did it go? There it is. Okay, so as part of the investigation, an extensive search, commonly referred to as, they video canvassed the area. It was for any footage from the early hours of November 13th in that area and surrounding neighborhoods in an effort to locate the suspect or suspects and vehicles. It resulted in a collection of numerous surveillance videos in the area from both residential and businesses. I'm going to talk about reviewing it. A review of the camera footage indicated that a white sedan, which they're going to call suspect vehicle 1, which I think is weird, but maybe that's in case another vehicle comes out or whatever, was observed driving through, I'm not going to go to the specific speech, but in Moscow at approximately 3:26 a.m. And then it was caught again at 3:28 a.m. And it was not displaying a front license plate, which is indicative of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania doesn't require a front license plate. Washington does. He did get his plates changed 5 days after the murder. So keep that in mind. A review of the footage from multiple videos obtained from the King Road neighborhood showed multiple sightings of the Elantra starting at 3:29 a.m. and ending at 4:20 a.m. So, okay, so let's break that down for a second. So the DoorDash driver got there a little bit after 4 o'clock. I think my daughter's about to come in here. Hey, baby. Sorry, so she might join us for a second until my wife comes and gets her. But anyway, so here, Victoria, stop. You need to sit. Sorry, Alyssa, could you come get the baby? Sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. Let me get her. I don't want her to hear about murder. Give me like 2 seconds. Victoria, go back to the playroom, baby. You have to. Go on. Back to the playroom. I'll be because you can't, because Daddy's doing something right now. He's working. Go back to the playroom. Thank you, sweetie. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. So it could be, so basically the vehicle start was seen at 3:29 a.m. ending at 4:20 a.m. Okay, so basically what that means, I know she's wonderful. I still call her the baby, but DoorDash was at 4 o'clock, so it was seen in that neighborhood at 3:29. So he's sitting out in his car at this point, right? So yeah, he's in his car for at least 30 minutes, from what we know. It shows that he made an initial 3 passes. He made 3 passes by the King Road residence. It's a neighborhood that's got very limited number of vehicles that travel in the area during the early morning hours. And upon review of the video, there were only a few cars to enter and exit. His vehicle can be seen, the Elantra can be seen entering the area a 4th time at approximately 4:04 a.m. Okay, it can be seen driving eastbound, stopping and turning around, then driving back, and when he's in front of their residence, he appears to unsuccessfully attempt to park or turn around in the road. So he's not even a good driver. The vehicle continued to the intersection, up to an intersection where it can be seen completing a 3-point turn and driving back down Queen Road. It's next seen departing the area at King Road at approximately 4:20. So we know that he was around the area for at least 30 minutes. 4:04, he gets back in front of the house and he's gone by 4:20. It's seen that he's going at a high rate of speed at about 4:20, and he's the direction that he is seen traveling is going back in the direction of Pullman to Whitman County, Washington, and that road leads to Pullman. Okay, so let me scroll down to this real quick. Any questions? Any questions on this at this point? Yeah, you still call your 4-year-old the baby. Yours 13, still the baby. Yeah, y'all get it. I don't want her to hear about murder, guys. I don't. So any questions about that before I go on to the next part? When we would find out we'll go to trial, you're going to have something in about a week. You're going to have where he's going to put his plea in. It's probably going to be at least a year before we know. And again, if somebody wants a question answered quicker, because there's 1,500 people in here, you can jump onto YouTube, Justin on TikTok on YouTube, get into that chat. It's literally the same thing, except you can see the affidavit a little bit better. And yeah, I can probably see it there. So did the document say that Dylan was found on a different floor than what she said? I saw something on TikTok that says huge issue. No, I think she was found on the floor where her bedroom is. I can't take credit for the good driver count. My wife said that earlier and I just stole it from her. I'll give her the credit. And as y'all know, Pullman is about 10 miles. The initial plea will basically be him saying guilty or not guilty. My guess is he'll say not guilty, is my guess. So law enforcement showed the Elantra. Okay, this is talking about how they identified the Elantra. Okay, a lot of people were let's talk about this for a second. So initially, they told us that we were looking for a white 2011 to 2013 Elantra. They wanted tips on a white 2011 to 13 Elantra. The FBI forensic person, basically what his job is, I'll just tell you. His job with the FBI is they take surveillance footage and they have tools to identify when the video is not very clear, to identify the year, make, and model of an unknown vehicle that's observed at one or more cameras during the commission of a crime. This guy's got 35 years experience of law enforcement, 12 years at the FBI, and his specific training includes identifying unique characteristics of vehicles. And he's got a database and gives clues. So that's how they discovered the Elantra from the blurry videos. And so initially he thought that it was a 2011 to 2013 Elantra, but then when he reviewed a little bit further, he indicated that it could be 11 to a 16 Elantra. However, that part going up to 16 was not indicated to the public, which I'm going to take a moment here and stop. I talked in lives a lot of shit about the Moscow PD. I called them like Mayberry from Podunk small towns, and I am big enough to admit when I am wrong. This was some, pardon language here, fucking amazing police work. I don't care if they got the tips from who they got them to. What they've done with this is amazing. My name on YouTube is the same name on here, Justin on TikTok. You can also get to it through a link in my bio. Yes, this is me on YouTube showing y'all on TikTok because my following on TikTok is significantly bigger. I'm not real. This is my first live ever on YouTube. So anyways, that I think is interesting. Then this is where it gets a little bit more interesting as far as like the timeline, right? They're getting the timeline a little bit closer. So investigators were given access to video footage on the Washington State University campus located in Pullman. A review of that indicated that approximately 2:44 on November 13th, a white sedan, which looks like the Elantra, was observed on the WSU surveillance cameras traveling north. This is on the 13th at approximately 2:53 a.m., which is, again, basically at 2:53 a.m. he was caught on the WSU campus driving towards Moscow. And by the way, on both sides, on YouTube and on TikTok, thank you guys so much for the follows. I so appreciate it. I don't know what the noise when YouTube does that is, but whatever it is, thank you guys. They also, the FBI examiner also identified the video footage of the vehicle in Moscow as the same vehicle, was determined to be the same vehicle that was in Pullman. Then at approximately 5:25 a.m., okay, so he was speeding out of there around 4:20, right? So around 5:25 a.m., a white sedan, which is consistent with the description of the Elantra, was observed on 5 cameras in Pullman and on the WSU campus. The first camera that recorded it gives the address. I don't know where it is, so I don't think it matters. The white sedan observed traveling northbound on Johnson Road, which leads directly back. In Moscow, he basically is seen going around his area. And at approximately 5:27, he's observed on cameras traveling towards his place. That's basically what it's showing, without reading it all, line by line, verbatim. Then on November 25th, Moscow PD asked law enforcement agencies to be on the lookout for any white Hyundai. This is really cool. This next part, I think it was pretty cool as far as the way again, the police work. Not like obviously murder is very bad. I don't think that part at all is cool. I think that's really, nevertheless, I think this police work is cool. So there on November 29th at 12:28 a.m., so in the morning, a WSU police officer basically did a search for white Elantras that were registered at Washington State. And as a result, he located a 2015. So you're talking about, this is on November 29th. They found Brian's Elantra with Pennsylvania tags. And they also took notice on the fact that okay, the car they've seen doesn't have front license plates. Washington and Idaho require front license plates. So the fact that it didn't have any Washington plates or any front plates was to them an indication that okay, this could be the vehicle. So they located the vehicle, and this vehicle they located his in that area, and then they also determined that in the area that they were looking at, the intersection where they saw the car, where the last camera that picked him up, the last one before I guess he went home, is 3/4 of a mile away from that last camera. It's from his house. So they went, I guess, checked it out. Then on the same day at 12:58 a.m., a different officer was looking for white Hyundai Elantras and located his physically in the parking lot at the apartment complex. He also ran the car and it returned Kohberger's name with a Washington plate. They reviewed his Washington State driver's license because remember, this is on the 29th, right? 29th, I tell you that? November 29th. And he got his license plate switched on the 28th. So the Pennsylvania plates weren't on the car anymore, which is what was registered at WSU. So he got the new plates but never told his school about it. And then they looked at his license, his picture, and they noticed that it was a male who was 6 feet, fairly thin. He's 185 pounds, and that he had bushy eyebrows, which fit the description. The description that they saw on his license is consistent with the description of the male that Dylan saw inside the house on the 13th. So further investigation reviewed that in Moscow, in Lada County, okay, this is in Moscow, On August 21st, so well before the murders, on August 21st, he was detained as part of a traffic stop that occurred in Moscow. At the time, still on Pennsylvania plates, he was the only person in the car. His plates did expire, were set to expire November 30th, for what that's worth. During the stop, which was recorded via the body cameras, he gave his phone number, and his phone number ends in 8458, so if I say that, that's because it's in here, and they refer to it as an 8458 phone. Investigators then started to conduct electronic database queries and learned that the phone number was issued, so it's an AT&T phone. And then after this, in about 25 minutes, we're going to switch to Banfield. I don't know how to do Banfield on YouTube, so until I learn that, I'll go back to TikTok just so you know, but we're going to get through this affidavit first and have a discussion till then. So then, again, so he was just detained for a traffic stop in August 21st. Then October 14th, he was detained as another traffic stop. Again, was the sole person, still Pennsylvania tags. Didn't say what that was about. It just said that he was detained again. Then on November 18th, we just talked about this, Brian registered the Elantra with Washington and later received a Washington plate, gave the number. Prior to that time, it was registered to Pennsylvania, which again doesn't require a front license plate to be displayed. At the time all of this was happening, the investigators believed that he was still driving the Elantra because his vehicle was captured December 13th. So this shows you that they were tracking him, okay? Because on December 13th, license plate reader caught him in Loma, Colorado. And his Elantra was then queried on December 15th by law enforcement in Indiana because, the traffic stop in Indiana. And on the 16th of December at 2:26 p.m., it showed him in Albrightsville, hopefully I'm saying that right, in Pennsylvania. So basically he made it home. And at the time, I guess, when that camera caught him, he was the sole occupant of the vehicle. And as we know, he has a house there. We're almost done, so I'm going to clear through this, and then we'll go to questions on both sides for y'all. And I'll switch you guys back to look at me. So, it talks about him being a student, his lecture. Oh, here's fun. So, dude wanted to be Dexter, and this is me making a theory. Dude wanted to be Dexter. Okay, he applied. This is funny, not funny, haha, but funny. He applied an interview. I'm trying to read it. Pursuant to record, I'll just read it verbatim. Pursuant to records provided by a member of the interview panel for Pullman Police Department, we learned that Kohberger's past education included undergraduate degrees from psychology and cloud-based forensics. Okay, that's important here. These records also showed Kohberger wrote an essay when he applied for an internship with the Pullman Police Department in fall of 2022. Okay, that is like some Dexter shit, So he would have, and I wondered if part of this was to have access to some of this stuff and know what was going on. So if he got caught, that's what makes me wonder. In his essay, he wrote that he had interest in assisting rural law enforcement agencies with how to better collect and analyze technological data in public safety operations. He also posted, which we all knew about the Reddit survey, but the police in the affidavit are confirming that he did that Reddit survey, which can be found on open source search internet. The survey asked for participants to provide information to, quote, understand how emotions and psychological traits influence decision-making when committing a crime, end quote. So now here's where we're going to get to some really interesting stuff, guys, when it comes to the phones. And again, for anybody who wants to see this like a little bit clearer, YouTube, Justin on TikTok, same name as on here. And you can see it because you can see me on the screen there. If y'all want to jump over, and there's like 146 people versus 1,300. So it's easier for me to see stuff when I get to that point. So, okay, here's where it gets really interesting. As part of this investigation, law enforcement obtained search warrants to determine cellular devices that utilized cell towers in close proximity to the murder house, for lack of a better word. We'll call it that. November 13th. This was on November 13th, 2022, between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., okay? And they obtained these warrants. They did this after determining that Brian was associated to both the Elantra and this phone number. They reviewed the search warrant returns. And a query of his phone number in these returns did not show the number utilizing cell towers he was not utilizing cell towers in close proximity to the King Road residence between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. Okay, so basically that indicates that the phone was off or in airplane mode. Okay. So let's go back a little further. They're talking about there's training in cellular detection. So here's what he says. He goes, based on his training and experience, individuals can either leave their cellular phone at a different location before committing the crime or turn the phone off prior to going into a location to commit the crime. This is done by subjects in an effort to avoid alerting law enforcement that a cellular device associated with them was in a particular area where a crime is committed. I also know that on numerous occasions, subjects will surveil an area where they intend to commit a crime prior to the date of the crime. So depending on circumstances, this could be done a few days before or several months prior to the commission of a crime. And we're going to come back, bear that several months in mind here for this discussion. During these types of surveillance, it's possible that an individual would not leave their cell phone during the time when they're searching, right? They're scoping out an area. It's likely that they would not leave their phone at home or turn it off because they don't plan to commit the crime that day. So on December 23rd, he applied for and was granted a search warrant for historical phone records between the November 12th at 12 a.m. and November 14th at 12 a.m., which was about approximately hours preceding and following the homicide times. And they talk about the phone issued at these address, blah, blah, blah. Account's been open since June. The records indicate. Hold on. Received FBI. Talking about they're talking about how the FBI does it. So they called in the FBI basically for this. They were able to determine estimated locations for his phone number from November 12th to November 13th. And on November 13th at 2:42 a.m. Okay, so this is about an hour and 20 minutes before we are suspecting the crimes were committed, the start of the suspected time. He was utilizing cell towers at his apartment in Pullman, Washington. At 2:47, it showed that he was basically on the road. It utilized cellular resources that provided coverage southeast of his residence, consistent with him leaving his residence and traveling south through Pullman, basically toward Moscow. So cell towers picked him up after he left his house or his apartment. Then at 2:47 a.m., the phone stops reporting to the network, which is consistent with the phone either being in an area without cell coverage, the connection to the network or where the connection is disabled, such as putting the phone in airplane mode, or the phone is turned off. And then the phone does not report back to the network again until 4:48 a.m., at which time it utilized cellular resources that provided coverage to Idaho State Highway 95 just south of Moscow between 4:50 and 5:26. And that's consistent with that phone traveling south on Idaho State Highway 95 towards Pullman, basically. The direction that he would have to go towards Pullman, okay? Then at approximately 5:30 in the morning, his phone is utilizing resources provided basically back at his residence. So he would have gone at this point. He was cleaning up, okay? Himself, I would imagine, at this point, and destroying whatever evidence he was going to destroy. That is my guess. So then, basically, and all of that is, and all of the phone records are consistent with the images, the video surveillance of the Elantra. Okay? So, let's keep going on this. Further review indicated that the phone number utilized resources on November 13th, approximately 9 a.m., traveling towards Moscow. Specifically, it utilized resources that would cover the King Road residence. This is the morning after the murders. He's already committed the murders. They're done. And at 9:12 a.m. Between 9:12 and 9:21 a.m., the towers pinged him. That son of a bitch went back to the house. Okay. So, yeah. So do you think it was the white car in the morning? It very well could have been the white car in the morning because that piece of garbage went back to the house. Then it utilized resources traveling back towards his residence, arriving in that area around 9:32. Remember, it's only about a 10-minute drive from Moscow to Pullman. So Again, 9:21 to 9:32, he's back at his house. Then they show a depiction of the area. You can kind of see this, right? Like, I mean, it's not really clear, but this kind of shows, it says possible route based off of cellular, that he would have come here and gone here, basically. So, investigators found that the phone did connect to cell towers that provide service to Moscow on November 14th, but investigators do not believe the phone was in Moscow on that date, and I don't know exactly what that means. Maybe one of y'all do. And since that date, it didn't connect to any towers in Moscow. Talking about the route. On November 13th, so basically say, based on training experience, fact, blah, 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 I believe that Kohberger, the user of the 8458 phone, was likely the driver of the white Elantra that is observed departing Pullman, and that this vehicle is likely the Elantra. Additionally, the route that the phone was traveling during the early morning hours of November 13th, and lack of the phone reporting to AT&T between 2:47 and 2:47 a.m. and 4:48 a.m. is consistent with Kohberger attempting to conceal his location during the quadruple homicide that occurred at the King Road residence. Okay? Then they got another warrant. On December 23rd, he was granted a search warrant for Kohberger's historical data. And we're not even done. Like, this is full of, like, amazing police work. So we're talking about the cellular phone because I think that's important because it gives us a path of, tracks a path of what he did. But like I said, I'm just blown away by the police work. I take back everything I ended up saying initially when phenomenal police work. They were able to estimate the phone locations from June 2022 to the present, showing the area. Basically what they're saying is that from the time he started, it's a little bit confusing the way it reads. He got his phone in June, so they were able to go back to the records in June. And between June and the murders, or, between, I should say June and the present date, whatever this was, he had visited the residence 12 times. His cell phone pinged near the residence 12 times, guys. If that's not stalker definition, I don't know what is. Now, all of those occasions, with the exception of one, occurred in the late evening and early morning hours on their respective days. So like middle of the night kind of shit, right? Of these occasions, on August 21st, 2022, the phone utilized cell resources providing coverage to that residence from approximately 10:34 p.m. to 11:35. So he was there for about an hour. And then at 11:37, he was stopped by a lot. So he was still even 11:37, which was 2 minutes later, stopped by the sheriff's department, or sheriff's deputy. It was just a traffic stop. Further analysis of the cell data showed the number utilized resources on November 13th, consistent again with the phone traveling from Pullman to Lewistown, Idaho, via 95, and approximately 12:36 p.m. It utilized resources that would provide coverage to. This is again on the 30th. So he's cleaned up. He went to Idaho. He cleaned himself up. Went back to the house. Then went back to Washington. Well, was in Washington. Stopped or went past Kate's Cup of Joe coffee. Then he was caught near a store. He then went to a store, by the way, at 12:46. He was now near an Albertsons grocery store. And the surveillance footage from that store showed that he got out of his car, walked through the store, purchased some unknown items at the checkout. So dude commits murder, goes and buys some groceries, right? Because that's whatever. And here's again a possible path of travel. You can kind of see the arrows here. It's again not very clear on this. Do we know the first day of the phone being at his house? No, we don't. I'm sure that they do, but they've not shared it. The way I read it, it could have been as soon as June. It could have been August, but he had been going there for a while. He'd been staking them out. unless it's in here and I missed it. So then it talks about at 5:32 to 5:36 p.m. he was utilizing resources in Johnson, Idaho. And it stops reporting to the network from 5:36 to 8:30 p.m., which is consistent with the 848 being in the area in the hours immediately following the suspected homicides. That's what it says. So I'll read to you verbatim because it's a little confusing. Additional analysis of records for the 8458 phone indicated that between approximately 5:32 p.m. and 5:36 p.m., the 8458 phone utilized cellular resources that provide coverage to Johnson, Idaho. The 8458 phone then stops reporting to the network from approximately 5:36 p.m. to 8:30 p.m., so about roughly 3 hours. That is consistent with the 8458 phone being in the area that the phone traveled in the hours immediately following the suspected time of the homicides. Okay? Then we're getting toward the end here. So on December 27th, Pennsylvania agents recovered trash from the Kohberger family residence. I'm going to talk about this. We're going to break this down here in a second. So they went to basically what happens in this part. They went to Brian's parents' house and they got trash. I have heard that they posed as trash man. I believe that to be true based on this. And so when we've been talking about they use genealogical data, and we've all assumed 23andMe or Ancestry, they did not. What they meant by ancestry data or genealogical data was that they obtained, basically, they took the trash that they got, they sent it to the lab, and then they reported back a DNA profile obtained from the trash, and the DNA profile obtained from the sheath identifies a male as not being excluded as the biological father of the suspect, meaning they identified his dad. He had one phone. They identified his dad and were able to determine it was him from the sheath. So, just mind-blowingly good. And based on the above information, they requested an arrest warrant be issued for Brian C. Kohberger, date of birth 11/21/94, for burglary at 1122 King Street, Moscow, and 4 counts of murder in the first degree for the murders of Madison Mogan, Kaylee Goncalves, I know I'm saying that wrong, sorry if I butchered the name, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. So they got the DNA match from the trash in Pennsylvania. It is amazing how well they did. Like, incredibly, incredibly impressive. And if you are hanging out on my YouTube side, please consider giving me a follow. Like I said, I'm going to probably start doing some more things like this on here. Because as you can see, it allows me to show stuff up and talk about it and put things up a little bit easier as I learn. So please consider doing that. And same thing on TikTok. I'm nearing 500,000. I would love to hit it. I don't normally pander for followers. I never ask for much. But if you feel helpful, please feel free giving me a follow. I definitely appreciate it. And for those of y'all asking, YouTube is the same name on here, Justin on TikTok. So, all right. There's a lot of questions here. Let me start, because again, it goes a little bit slower on the YouTube side. So let me start there and see what questions y'all have. I might have to grab myself a drink because I've been talking so much my voice is about gone. Did he go inside the houses? Megan asked if he went in the house when he returned after the murders. No, he didn't. I think people are saying that they think he went back to get a sheath. I'm going to go grab a drink real quick. Think that he went back to get the sheath. I think that he went back to see if there was any action. And, you know, maybe that was, you know what? Maybe, this is just me thinking out loud. Maybe the reason he left and didn't kill Dylan was maybe he didn't know Bethany was there and he wanted somebody to call the police, because if not, and the house was empty, it might have taken days. He might have wanted to see what he did. This is just, again, theory, right? Just a theory, but I'm wondering if that's it. Like, I kind of feel like it almost feels like he wanted to get caught. Do I think he's done this before? As sloppy as this was, I don't think he's killed people before, but I think he could have killed animals. Thank you, Haley, for coming from TikTok to follow. I appreciate it. It is better on here, Carrie. I agree. Like, this whole setup is freaking awesome. If this continues to grow, I'm going to buy like a whole, I'll buy a whole rig. I'm doing it right now on my Mac. I'll do something with dual screens. I'll get the head. I told people last night I'll get the stupid headphones, but anyways. And Alyssa got me a mic, so I literally pulled my computer up from downstairs and we're just going to give this a go tonight. How do they use the surveillance in his neighborhood? Do they Do they use a house or sit in a car? I think they did a lot of things to surveil him. I think that you had people watching him from a lot of different ways. I don't know exactly what they did. They kept it pretty quiet. So, wonder if he dished the weapon on the last dropped cellular ping. That's an interesting theory, Megan. Like, that's a possibly, like, I mean, that's a good tip type of thought. I'm trying to read this. Yeah, familiar DNA. Is Banfield on already? Let's see if Banfield's on already. I'll get off of this right here because we've seen that. Let me go to YouTube. Bear with us. Let's see if Banfield's on. Do we think it was Brian or Ethan that Dylan heard? Good question, Josh. I actually think it was Brian. I think, again, I don't know. This is pure speculation. I think that this guy's got a messiah complex. And him saying he was going to help them. Like maybe she was crying because she killed Ethan. I'm still Dan Abrams right now. So we have about 4 minutes before I'll go ahead and put it on here, and then we'll. I don't know how to flip this. I don't think I can. Let me see if I can, if it's possible. To flip my camera. This is again very new to me. So thank you guys. Okay, I'm seeing all the subscriptions now here. So thank you guys for subscribing. I don't know how to flip the camera. Let me see if I can. If not, I'm just going to have to go back to... yeah, I'm probably going to end up getting off here to do whenever this loads. Sorry, I know I'm sitting in the dark now. Try to get this thing to load up. Alexa, turn on theater. I don't want to be sitting in the dark while this is all going on.
By the way, I can automatically
Alexa, hush. So I don't know how to flip the computer to show you all that. But give me a second. Well, I'm not on my browser. I actually stream from my projector. I'm trying to get it to load though. It's having an issue. I'm going to go out and come back in. I'll learn. This is all very new to me. Do you think it's possible he encountered a sinister individual who said, "Come watch me work" in his research, and he drove the person out and dropped them off, and the person framed him? I think that's highly. I think that's an interesting theory, but I think it's highly unlikely. There we go. So Banfield's going to start in a minute. So I will stream that on TikTok. Yes, of course, Ted, I'm putting on Banfield. This is the network Banfield will come on. We have a few minutes. Can you Apple share or play to your computer? Not from this. I wish I could. I need to just learn. Like I said, this is my first time doing anything on YouTube. I plan to do a lot more. This was kind of just like a practice run. And then once I get to a certain amount of subscribers, which I mean, hell, maybe it's there. Let me look. I'm going to start doing Alyssa's going to do a podcast. So, with me. Which y'all might have gotten me there. Where I think my goal is 500. Pretty reasonable goal, right? And I am at 466. So we're close. So thank you guys all. I appreciate it. And TikTok kind of pisses me off anyways, a little bit more than it used to. Like today when I did my update video, like right after this came out, TikTok kept it in processing like review for 10 minutes, and I was able to like take that video while it was still in review and upload it to Insta and YouTube, and still it was not up on TikTok. So TikTok is not very supportive of its creators, I don't think, a lot of times. Do we know why his dad flew and drove back with him? Great question, Andrea. Personally speaking, I don't read too much into that. It's a long drive. His dad might have been bored with nothing to do. Like, hey, I'll come ride with you. Yes, Sherry, I agree. YouTube is awesome. Did anyone see his hands? I didn't see it, but at this point, everything would have probably been pretty much healed up. What's the connection between Kaylee and Brian? We don't know what the connection is yet. Thank you, Madeline, for the subscribing. I believe I have it set to save lives. I think so, Sherry. Yeah, let me look at these over here. Do you think he was going to get bond? Probably not. But you know they're going to try anyways. You know, that while this is before this starts, I want to say something because it's about to start. I want to say something real quick because a lot of people are like, he's innocent until proven guilty. He's innocent until proven guilty. And this might be an unpopular take. But if you were truly innocent until you were proven guilty, then they'd give your ass an ankle bracelet and send you home. They wouldn't keep you in jail for possibly a year. All right, put it. Banfield's back on. I can, you know what? I can maybe.
53 days after the Idaho
Let me see if I can. I mean, if I do this, does this make me larger?
The lab work, the legwork, and the forensic and digital breadcrumbs that led.
Does this make me? Did that make me larger
to Brian Kohberger,
on the screen?
And it is finally on public display. Some of what we thought we knew was wrong, and some of what we never knew.
Because if so, I'm going to turn this and let y'all watch it too from here. But I won't be able to see the comments till after.
Exclusive interview.
Okay.
Kaylee Gonzalez's father and her mother on facing the alleged killer of their daughter for the first time and enduring a.
Now you can actually see the whole TV better too.
In court, something
That's hilarious.
no
Okay, I can't see the questions while this is happening, but I'm going to shut up now.
They will join me live tonight in just moments. Still racked with grief, but relieved that justice for Kaylee, Maddie,
No, sorry to the
Ethan,
YouTube
and
people,
Xana
sorry.
may be in sight after all. And then, a shocking twist on a question we have all asked for weeks. It's no longer, why did it take so long to find a suspect? It's, why did it take so long to arrest the suspect that they seem to be eyeing in the first few days? Building a case is important, but was the public ever in danger with the alleged killer roaming for weeks from class to class, from store to store, and state to state? It is all straight ahead on this special edition of Banfield. Hello and welcome to our special report on the quadruple murder of those 4 University College kids in Idaho. The breaking news tonight, details of how they found and caught their only suspect, Washington State University PhD student Brian Kohberger. He is back in Idaho tonight. He is jailed tonight right beneath the courtroom where the details of his alleged murders were unsealed today. The probable cause affidavit leading to his arrest absolutely brimming with astounding details of his crime. And this is what it looked like and sounded like when that alleged quadruple killer took his seat in the Moscow courtroom today.
If you plead guilty or are found guilty, it is up to death and or imprisonment for life. Do you understand?
Yes.
We now know that there was enough evidence in that house to lead investigators almost immediately right to Kohberger's door. And when it comes to physical evidence at the crime scene, the suspect, well, he almost left a calling card, a K-bar knife sheath, the sheath to the knife, likely the sheath to the weapon that was used in those brutal stabbings. It was found to the right side of Maddie Mogan's body in her bedroom on the 3rd floor and in the same bed as the body of Kaylee Gonzalez. It was the snap on that knife sheath that held crucial DNA evidence from the killer. I want to show you something that I actually have in my possession. It's identical. This is it. This is the K-bar sheath and the K-bar knife. The USMC and the United States Marine Corps Eagle Globe and the anchor insignia that's stamped on the outside of it. I don't know how well you can see this on the angle, but there's the stamp, and here it is, the actual snap. You can hear it on my microphone. And I want you to see just how hard it is to try to unsnap it. You can hear that, right? You have to use a lot of strength. You really have to use your fingers to snap it back up. And what I'm doing when I do that, I'm leaving my DNA all over that snap, all over it, even if I were to wipe everything down. Now, they don't have the knife, right? We know that. They don't have the knife. They had the sheath. Most importantly, they had that part right there, the snap, with whatever the killer put, fingers, hair oil, DNA on that snap. And that ended up being critical. Kaylee's bedroom, that was on the 3rd floor. We know that. And we also now know that that is where police found her dog, Murphy. According to the affidavit, Murphy was heard barking on a neighbor's security camera at 4:17 in the morning. The security camera was just 50 feet away from the front corner of the house where Xana's bedroom was located. Look at that police car. It's just right above there. That's Xana's bedroom. So just to the left bottom of your screen, that would be where the house is with the security camera. And that camera also captured some distorted audio of a whimper and a loud thud at that very same time. And it is right around that time that authorities now say the murders took place, between 4 a.m. and 4:25 a.m. And there's more. The document states that a roommate with the initials DM, that is presumably Dylan Mortensen, one of the 2 surviving roommates. Well, that roommate had a bedroom on the 2nd floor, a room that up until now we had assumed was vacant. It was widely and wrongly reported that both surviving roommates had bedrooms on the 1st floor, the basement, and that they were asleep in those rooms while the killings were taking place. Police had actually stated in a press release that, quote, the 2 did not wake up until later that morning. But the new affidavit says otherwise. It says that not once, not twice, but 3 separate times, the roommate with the initials DM, seen on the right-hand side of your screen here, that she heard sounds that disturbed her beginning at 4 o'clock in the morning. The first sound woke her up at 4. She says she thought it was Kaylee playing with Murphy upstairs. Quote, a short time later, the affidavit says DM thought that she heard Kaylee say something like, quote, there's someone here. DM opened her bedroom door. She looked around, but she saw nothing. She would have looked to the left up those third floor stairs and across into the kitchen. A short time later, she heard something else. She heard what sounded like Xana crying. That's down that far hall to the right. That's the 2nd floor bedroom as well, but on the other side of the house. And DM opened her door for the 3rd time. That is when she says she heard a male voice saying something like, quote, it's okay, I'm going to help you. Soon after that, this is the 3rd time she opened her door. Soon after that, she opened the door for the 3rd time, and this is where it gets extremely eerie. She says she saw a figure clad all in black and wearing a mask across his nose and mouth, walking directly towards her. So I'm going to stop there for a moment. Picture then, if the figure is walking towards us from Xana's room down the hallway, and then taking a slight right towards Dylan's room, and then taking a right again through the kitchen, that would be walking right past Dylan's room. That's where she would be able to see him walking right towards her. Detectives say she stood in, quote, a frozen shock phase as that male walked past her in the direction of the sliding glass door in the kitchen that would be directly across from her bedroom. The roommate said this, quote, he was athletically built, but not muscular, and had bushy eyebrows. She also said she did not recognize him. DM then said she locked herself in her bedroom. Something else from the affidavit, and this is huge. He apparently left a footprint in faint blood with a diamond-shaped pattern that was outside of Dylan's door. That, interestingly, wasn't even discovered until they processed the scene a 2nd time and used chemicals to do it. That's why they called it a latent footprint. Then there's this, also massive, the digital evidence. Brian Kohberger's cell phone was detected by towers around the house on 12 separate occasions. One of those was after the murders, but get this, it was before the police were even called to the scene. So just a few hours after the murders, like 5 hours. There were also multiple sightings of Brian Kohberger's white Hyundai Elantra on security camera footage throughout this area, both in Moscow, Idaho, and in Pullman, Washington, where he lives. All of this leading up to the murders, and then all of it right after the murders as well. Kohberger went before the judge in Moscow on 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of felony burglary. And our senior national correspondent, Brian Enton, was in that courtroom just feet away from Brian Kohberger, and he joins me now with the latest. This has been, I don't know how else to put it, but a hell of a day, learning what we've learned and seeing what you've seen. Brian, take me there.
Yeah, I can't believe the 19-page probable cause. It has so many more details than I think any of us expected, and there was so much happening behind the scenes over the last month that we didn't know about, and police have been so busy and they knew so much more than any of us realized. They have basically been tracking Brian Kohberger for at least a month. That is when the police officer in the state of Washington first saw the Elantra, told the police here, and that's when they got the ball rolling on this. I couldn't believe a lot of the stuff in there. But back to court today, you see him there in court, Ashley. Came in, he's staying at the jail, which is right below the courthouse. It's a very, very small courthouse. He was pretty much stone cold. He didn't look back at the families. They were in the front row. And the Gonzalez family obviously became emotional when they started reading the victims' names, Ashley.
We're going to be speaking with Steve and Christy Gonzalez in just a few minutes. But Brian, did you get a sense of anything from this court appearance? I know you say stone cold look and demeanor, but was there anything at all to connote the severity of what he's facing? This is a death penalty state. This is for first-degree death penalty eligible murders, and the eyes of the nation were on him. Did he acknowledge at all that the media was in the court, that the families were in the court, that there was this serious process ongoing?
So he didn't look back at all, which was different than when I was in Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania, he looked around the room and he made eye contact with his family. And when he was brought into the courthouse in Pennsylvania, he looked over at us reporters when we were shouting questions. This time he just came in, he looked straight ahead. I get the sense, and he's getting his PhD in criminology, or he was anyway, that he understands the process very well. He answers all of the judge's questions very quickly and clearly, and there is definitely this feeling that he knows what's going on in court. It was a relatively quick hearing today. The charges were read. He has the public defender because the judge said, he doesn't have the money to afford a private attorney, and now we wait for the next hearing, which will be 1 week from today.
So no bail, and I almost laughed when I heard it was requested, but that's what a defense attorney has to do. This is a death penalty eligible, case, so bail would be slim to none, especially since they had to track him all the way across the country. I do want to ask you about the eyewitness. This was maybe the most astounding, other than a knife sheath found at the murder scene, the fact that Dylan Mortensen actually had eyes on, and that she survived, and that she retreated back into her room, and that everything played out the way we're supposed to believe it played out the next morning. I am confounded. I'm assuming you're confounded. Is anyone else confounded about how this all happened?
Yes. It's jaw-dropping. I was in line to get in the courtroom when they released the probable cause. So I'm reading it on my phone, and I'm like, I can't believe that part, because we've been under the assumption that the 2 surviving roommates were sleeping through the whole entire thing. And no, she wasn't sleeping. She was awake. She heard lots of things, which you went over. And then she saw the killer walk by. And then there was the big question of, this was all around 4 a.m., but the 911 call wasn't made until 11:58 a.m. Yeah.
Brian, I'm going to jump in, and I want you to stand by if you would. You've been so good about this, but I want to go right now to Steve Gonzalez and Christy Gonzalez, mother and father of Kaylee Gonzalez. They've been patiently waiting by. Their attorney, Shannon Gray, is also standing by as well. And thank you, all of you, for doing this and giving us this opportunity to touch base with you. I know this has got to have been one of the most difficult days of your life. Steve, let me begin with you. Your reaction after laying eyes on the person accused of doing this horrendous crime against your family.
I just looked at a guy that looks like a normal, everyday, kid. I mean, I didn't see anything there that caught my eye. I just was overtaken by the fact that I was in in a courtroom going over a case that had to do with two people that I cared and loved about. It was a little bit unreal, but I was just overtaken by the moment.
Christy, I can imagine that that is an understatement, being overtaken by something. You're in a club no one ever wants to belong to. There are so many others across this country who have been through what you've been through and say the same thing. It's unbelievable. They're numb. Does that sum up how you felt? Can you tell me what you thought?
I expected to feel just this immense amount of hate. And I'm sure that will come. I think that I'm a little bit in shock still. But looking at him, I just felt nothing. I mean, I just looked at him like, and I couldn't take my eyes off of him, his every moment. And I just could not believe that he has done what he has done. And I had a sick feeling for sure. It was very emotional. But on the other hand, I just was numb.
You expected him to be a bigger monster and a more intimidating.
I mean, I'm like, this is the guy?
Yeah.
This is the guy that murdered our daughter.
Are you going to be okay with continuing these court hearings? Are you going to show up at all of these court hearings? This is a lot. It's a lot to process. Before this, you were just parents of a couple of really great kids and living the American dream. And now there's this new normal in your life.
I think we'll lean on the prosecutor to tell us if the information's going to be to a level. Like I've already told them what I'm comfortable with hearing about the family house. I don't want to hear any of the gory details. So there'll be certain days that we're there and certain days that we check out,
We have Shannon that will keep us in tune with that as well. And we have other family members that will be going on some of those harder days. They feel that they can be there because we know it's a long road, but and it's a drive for us. But we'll do it every day if we have to. We just don't want to give big bad details.
There's there on the screen there are pictures of Kaylee as you're talking, and I'm always struck by how much she looks like you. Absolutely stunning.
You.
Just such a beautiful girl. Indeed.
Yeah, we didn't look
And
at that. Mama's girl.
She looks like you, Steve. She's got some of you too. I just wanted to get a sense from you about justice. What is it? What does it look like for you? I mean, you're just starting this process.
For me, it's going to look a lot like an end. I mean, justice doesn't have a room where you can read books and you can go to school and you can have 3 meals and you can have your vegan diet. To me, that's not justice. Justice is when you leave the planet and the whole world is able to rejoice and be glad that you are not there. That's justice, and we will forgive him. We will. We're not going to have that heavy weight on us. We will forgive this individual, and but he has to pay for what he's done. And it's not just our daughter, it's all the victims he needs to pay justice to. And, that's all I can say about it.
Yeah.
Chrissy, it's always a shock to face the person who's alleged to have committed these horrendous acts and changed your lives forever. If you could say something to this person, what would you say?
I would just, I wouldn't want to give him too much. But I mean, I would tell him that, he destroyed our lives in an aspect. Does he realize what he has taken from us, from these 4 families? I mean, Ethan was a triplet. Maddie was an only child. Xana had siblings. Kaylee was one of 5. She was the middle child. She had 2 older siblings, 2 younger siblings. Just the immense loss. I mean, did he really think? I mean, he did really think about it, which makes it really hard. But why?
And I would add to that if you were looking for cruel girls that were bullies to you through your life when you were struggling, you picked the wrong girls. My girls have been through a lot, and they weren't the ones to pick on somebody that because they were overweight or they were struggling and people weren't. They were actually the ones to stick up for you. So yeah, you picked the wrong person if you were looking for vengeance on some people that were mean to you in your life, and you picked the wrong community. And we're gonna have to hold you accountable for that mistake.
Speaking of that accountability, has the prosecution or anybody from the prosecutor's office discussed the option of a death penalty? Because victims' families are consulted typically throughout the process, and this is an option on the table in the state of Idaho.
We've talked with them. We've had multiple meetings. I think they probably want to do it all of the families together before they just approach one. That would make the most sense. But we've had meetings, but we have not crossed that actual
Question.
Yeah, I mean, they couldn't even disclose just until recently that they were this close. They kind of said that, hey, give us some time. We think we have the right person. We're going to get this. But we couldn't go from that to death penalty or those type of details.
Do you both have a feeling as to how you would respond to that question once the prosecutors put it to you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we know.
We're glad that we live in Idaho.
Definitely.
I'm assuming that
Definitely.
you are in favor of the death penalty for this
Absolutely.
defendant.
If our daughters could switch places with him, and I'm saying Maddie is my daughter, we'd do it in a heartbeat. If they could sit there and have 3 squares, a place to live, we could call them, we could write them letters, they could watch TV, they could get educated.
I would love if Maddie and Kaylee were doing life in prison right now.
Yeah, so
At least we could talk to them.
that's not
They'd be breathing.
a punishment equivalent to being killed. That's God's role. And if you want to play God's role, then you're gonna have to go answer to him.
Do you know if the Mogan family feels the same way? I know you all are very close with the Mogans.
We've not talked to them about that. I was gonna call her last night and I did not. So I'm not sure.
Easy to talk about.
I'm not sure, but I have a feeling that that they will, but I can't say that for sure.
They're very
I wanna
forgiving
ask,
family.
It's incredible to hear the words forgiveness out of your mouth, Steve. It floors me. It's extraordinarily magnanimous. You're a very strong family if you're able to be there today, especially on day one of this process, seeing him for the first time. I would love to ask your attorney, Shannon Bray, if I can. Shannon, was there anything in the affidavit you didn't already know about? Are there things that you know more about than the public knows now?
Well, I think there were a lot of things in the affidavit that we had no idea about. The DNA and the sheet, we had suspected some things. The identification, I think we had suspected. But there were a lot of things that, there was quite a bit of information in that affidavit. I was actually surprised there was so much information in the affidavit. But it looks like it's a solid case. And, I kind of look at the case in 2 different ways. As a former prosecutor, I look at it as a prosecution case, and it looks like a solid case. And then I flip the hat and I say, okay, as a criminal defense attorney, how would I look at it? And I still have a hard time with that, with the evidence that's been mentioned in the affidavit. And that's not the entire case. There'll be additional circumstantial evidence that'll be provided that will make more connections, hopefully, with the defendant in the case. And like they've always said, it's not just a arrest, it's a conviction. So we're hoping that that's the case.
Steve and Christy, when we covered the tragedy that befell Gabby Petito, her father, Joe Petito, said that there were some lessons that he learned very early in the process, and that was to pay particular attention to your other kids because they are going through an immeasurable trauma. Have you had a chance to navigate this with your other kids, with Kaylee's siblings, and have you charted a course forward?
Yes, we have our 2 are adults and they are grown, and we have talked to them, and they know, they can reach out to grief counseling and whatnot. And we are very open and we talk a lot about it. We cry a lot about it, and that's not always enough But our two younger children, right now we are kind of letting them do their own grieving for a little while longer before we start some grief counseling with the church. They have some great people for us to reach out to, and we plan on reaching out to them. I've been talking to the pastor on a daily basis, and he has some really good, they go through grief counseling that himself as the pastor, and he has a team like for teens and whatnot, and he feels that they are like the best, and I trust him. He's a great man, and he's got us through a lot here lately. And yeah, we feel that we just don't want to throw it on them, because right now they're like, no, we don't need that. But I don't see how they cannot not need that. You know, they're young, and they're heartbroken, and they're confused.
Yeah, this is their friend and sister.
Yeah.
And
So,
and you know,
unfortunately,
Maddie as well, right?
Yes.
I would assume that Kaylee's siblings were very close with Maddie as well. This is a tremendous amount of burden to try to process for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, Maddie was very kind and had been a sister to them for so long that it was just, we took for granted that she was there and that she would always be there. So yeah, it hits everybody a little bit different, and you have certain memories that you tie to certain individuals. So it's my girls miss them both, and my son is torn. You know, it's something we're gonna have to work together. We're not very good at this kind of stuff, but we're gonna have to figure it out.
Yeah, we're not, and it's not something you want to be good at. But just
I'd like to,
as a family.
I'd like to introduce you to Joe Petito. I think it might be helpful just in terms of
take advice from somebody who's been there for a second. Yeah, we're not.
Be pleased to do that. Shannon, we'll speak after the program, and I will connect all of you together. I do want to ask you, Steve, about some of the information in the affidavit. It seemed as though the police had their eyes on this suspect within 2 weeks of the crimes being committed, and yet for 4 more weeks, he was in Moscow, he was in Pullman, he was crossing the country. And I wanted to get your thoughts just on the notion that there were so many other people, classmates, neighbors, both in Washington and in Pennsylvania, who may have been at risk because they were so close to him before he was actually brought in cuffs. What were your thoughts about that?
I think we all kind of shared that as a community, that there was a risk of somebody being out there. And I took that very personal, because I had so much weight on top of me, and I knew all these other victims that were associated with my family were being hurt with just overall media and coverage. But these guys, there's no perfect way to do this. And these officers they just did an amazing job. And I was hard on them, and I'll come out and say that I owe them all the gratitude in the world, and I've always supported the police. But it's the school of thought that I come from. Like, everybody can do their best, and they need to come to the every day trying to be the best person that they can possibly be. So I won't back off of that, but these guys did an amazing job. They need more credit than they had. I mean, people think Idaho is so, old-fashioned and out back, but these guys, they hit a home run, man. That affidavit is impressive, and I'm glad to be wrong. I wanted to be wrong, and I told them to their face. I looked them in their eyes and said, prove me wrong, and all is forgiven. And here we are, and all is forgiven. And I'll say that on camera, and I'll tell everybody, I was concerned, but I was wrong. They were right, and I'm okay with that. I have my person now. We have our person of interest, our defendant, and we will go after him, and he better be ready.
I can't thank you enough for spending the time with us tonight, Steve and Christy, and Shannon as well, especially on a day like you've been through today. And I send you love and strength as you embark on this journey. And I look forward to covering this as well and seeing justice actually coming through for all of you and your families.
Thank you. You've been dedicated to the story. That's why we're here, because we appreciate hard work and effort, and you have been amazing. You have been so strong on this case, and it doesn't go unnoticed.
And I believe the same with Brian. I think Brian is one of your coworkers, and he's been great as well.
Well, we'll continue. We're not letting go. We're going to make sure that we're honored as well with you. Again, as I said, on this journey. And as I said, Shannon, I'm going to connect with you after the program and hopefully
Thank you.
get you in touch with Joe Petito. It'll be, I think, helpful. Thank you both. Thank you, all three of you. I so appreciate it.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Good night.
And the Gonzalez has just mentioned Brian Enton, who has been steadfast and dogged in covering the story. He was at the jail cell today. He was in the courtroom today. He is out in front of that building tonight. And when we come back after the break, there are so many more details in those multitudes of pages in the affidavit. You're going to hear more of them in just a moment.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and mute the commercials so y'all don't have to hear them. I'm going to turn YouTube around until it comes back on. There's still a lot of y'all in here. Okay. They were great. I'm glad that she's going to introduce them to the Petito family. Of course, that's what I do. I've been streaming Banfield every night that this is going on. I agree. I think that Joe Petito will be good. I was actually talking to Rose Davis earlier today. That's Gabby's best friend. And she kind of wants to try to get in touch with the survivors because and the people who have been accused, because she's been through that as well. You know, when she lost her best friend. I mean, let's be real, they were best friends, but Gabby was like a sister to her. The screen that you're watching, it's a projector. This is our theater. It's 100 inches. For those of y'all who are new here, please consider following. I stream this every night, and if you want as well, I'm also been streaming, and I went through the affidavit on YouTube. So if you want to follow me there, I'm trying to grow that so I can start moving stuff over to that platform because I can do so much more there. I'm already loving my first day with it, so just, consideration. And same username, Justin on TikTok, is also YouTube. And then I will go look over here. I agree, it was a very powerful conversation. I love the fact, the Petito, I have not had the honor and privilege of meeting the Petitos. I've met Rose, which is also an honor and a privilege. But I know that they're wonderful people, and I think that they are going to do some amazing things to help these families navigate this terrible process, this whole thing that they have to go through, like as she said, their new normal. So that's a lot to watch. I think that's nice though. But I don't know how strong they are. Somebody asked about the pots and pans. So Darla, this is going back to Brian's veganness. Idaho said that they will do their best to accommodate his veganism, his choice. But there was a story that that his aunt told that said that when she came over because he's vegan, she made him go out and buy new pots and he made her go out and buy new pots and pans because he didn't even want a pan that meat had been cooked in. And they said that they were absolutely not going to do that for him. They're not going to be getting new pots and pans, though. I don't know if any of the survivors were in court today. That I don't know. I don't think so. Went back and forth between both of y'all. Yeah, the affidavit is because the thing is, affidavits are normally 2 pages, maybe 3 pages. Yes, my YouTube is also Justin on TikTok, and you can also get to it through my link tree. At the top, there's some icons, and you click the YouTube icon, it'll take you right there. Usually affidavits are like 2-3 pages, and this was like 19. And it was detailed, and it was not nearly as redacted as we thought they would be. I mean, like I said earlier, they did some incredible police work on this. Dylan was in court? Okay, I did not know that, so thank you guys. Apparently, YouTube people, Dylan was in court today. The 2 roommates were both there with their families. Okay, so they were there. That's what a lot of people were saying this. Yeah, I do too, Abby. I hope that Dylan does not have to go through what Rose did. I don't want either one of them have to go through what Rose did. Yeah, somebody on this side said, I don't know if my opinion's changed on who the target was. I think it's back on. Hold on. No, it's not. All right. It might be about to be back on. Hold on. Is he being held on suicide? Great question. Josh, you asked some good questions. No, he is not on suicide watch in Moscow? Good question, though. Do we tell you they're holding a ton of... Oh, it's back on.
Happened before.
Yes,
the
they are
grand
holding a
state
ton of
judge
evidence that that's
proceedings
what's in the
all spoke with
affidavit.
me exclusively. It was their first interview since facing down the man accused of murdering not only their daughter, but their daughter's best friend and their family friend. And it has been a hell of a day for them to process what they have been through. Not the least of which, the information that came out in the affidavit that we've been talking about publicly, they didn't know everything in that affidavit. So much of it was new to them as well, as we have just learned. A couple of other things that they just said that is news to us as well. And this one just shook me to my core, that they will forgive this alleged killer, Brian Kohberger. They said it several times, that they have it in their heart that they will forgive him, but that if he wanted to play God, he would have to meet God. And to that question, they said they are supporting a death penalty if, when the state approaches them to get the family's input on whether to seek the death penalty. That often happens in these processes, and many times families will weigh in and say no for various different reasons, sometimes moral, sometimes because it's more punitive, they think, to serve out life in prison. But they said they do want the death penalty, and that the families will all work together towards that. He also says that he was hard on the police early on as they were so tight-lipped, but that he says he's fully forgiven everything that he may have said or felt before because of the job that they've done in bringing in this suspect. Just a remarkable interview. I want to go back out to Brian Enton, who's standing by live outside of the jail. I say the jail, but it's also the courthouse, because that's where you spent your day today. Just give me a read for the people of Moscow, because this has impacted them overwhelmingly. This town has not seen a murder in 7 years, and now this. And that courtroom was so small, Brian. Just take me inside there.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I mean, just because there's been an arrest, now this community has to go through the trial. And I just want to go back to your interview for a second, because I'm just so sad for that family. And I just think, like, people lose track of the fact that these families are going through this, and it's become sport for so many people online to follow this. And you know, they just explained to you, you know, now that the trial has started, and I was in the courtroom, I mean, they're just sitting right behind the man accused of killing their daughter. I mean, this is going to be so hard, this next phase of all of this. And I was just so struck by what Christy said when she said, you know, if my daughter could be in jail forever and read books, and I could talk to her on the phone, that would be so much better than the situation that I'm in right now. And I just, you know, I think people felt like, okay, now there's been an arrest and everybody's just so relieved, but this is now the beginning of a new, really, really tough process for the families and also for this town.
I mean, it is the beginning, because this affidavit is the tip of the iceberg. There's still so many more questions that I have than answers. There's still some real mysteries about what happened that night and what Dylan Mortensen saw. I mean, a witness, an actual witness to the perpetrator inside that house is just unheard of. We just didn't think this was going to happen. So, Brian, it means that you and I have a lot more work still ahead of us. And thank you for all of the work you've been doing till now. Just an excellent job.
Thanks, Ashley.
Also, as is evidenced by the Gonzalez's saying it too. Still to come, if this now murder defendant, Brian Kohberger, is guilty of this crime, he might just be the worst student of criminology of all time. If it is him, he basically left his business card behind at the scene. But why did it take almost 8 weeks to come to this phase, to come to this point? Especially since they had the killer's DNA from the very first moment. The man who hunted down and then caught the Golden State Killer after decades on the lam, he joins me next with a lot of great insight.
Moderate to severe eczema still disrupts my skin. Despite treatment, it disrupts my skin with itch. It disrupts my skin with rash. But now, I can disrupt eczema with Rinvoq. Rinvoq is not a steroid, topical, or injection. It's one pill once a day that's effective without topical steroids.
Turn y'all around while the commercial's on. We will see what y'all say. Yes, thank you for helping me to get to my 500 subscribers goal on YouTube. So next, what was that? Somebody's getting a text. What? Hold on, sorry. It'll probably be a short night after Banfield's over. Normally I do questions, but my daughter apparently is being a daddy's girl tonight, so I will go spend time with her after this. So the story, okay, Kate, so I don't know if this is true. The question that she's asking over here on the YouTube side is, where do we think Brian got the USMC knife? Pawn shop. Somebody, and I can't find the post now, on the Facebook group made the comment that he had sold the knife to him. And he supposedly had a conversation and that he had brought somebody with him. This was a few weeks ago. You know how the group is. I don't know, if it's true or what the deal is. Why do you think he told Xana it's going to be okay? I'm going to help you. I think that he had, my personal opinion, without limited knowledge, is maybe he has a messiah complex, and he's like, maybe he had, again, complete speculation without knowing, maybe he had killed Ethan first, and she was upset, obviously scared, and he was like, "I'm okay, I'm going to help you," meaning like he was going to, yeah. I don't know if my opinion has. I don't know if my opinion on the targets have changed. Yeah, God complex, exactly. The stool at the sliding glass door is interesting. We were talking about that tonight, Samantha. It was, you kind of wonder if maybe Dylan's, because he went out the glass door, you kind of wonder if she stacked it afterwards to try to be safe. Again, this is just it's a weird situation. I do not know how to minimize that bouncing dino. What I can maybe do is make myself larger. Maybe, hold on. See if I can make myself larger, which will maybe hide the bouncing dino. I see it, to me, I see it in the background. There we go. If not, again, I'm still very much learning. Thank you, Kimberly. I'm still very much learning how to do this. This is my first time ever using this platform. I don't even know if I'm going to keep this streaming platform and find somebody else. Oh, it's up there every time. I don't know how to... let me see. See if I can figure out how to do it. I don't know how to do it, guys. White box. Maybe that. Maybe delete. Maybe that might do it. That might do it. Do I think the report open front door next morning was from Brian and went back? I don't think he went back in. No, I think that he went back not to go retrieve the sheath. I think that he went back to go see if there was any commotion at the house. He wanted to see. So actually, Sydney, I do know the answer to that, but I'm not allowed to say it because the source I got it from is close to somebody in the case, like one of the parents. So I know that, but I cannot share it. Because if so, that source will not tell me anything else, if I do. Oh, that's interesting. Maybe, Farrah, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm glad he didn't get the satisfaction of seeing police action also. Part of me wonders, again, I don't know this, but part of me wonders if the passed out person, the passed out roommate, was Dylan. I think it's back on, is it? Yes. Turn it back on.
Welcome back. From a cell phone data trail to the multiple sightings of a white Hyundai Elantra to the sheath of a still missing knife that's believed to be the murder weapon. If Brian Kohberger is in fact the killer, he seems to have given police pretty much a roadmap right to his front door. And this is a man who was working towards a PhD in criminology. Again, if he's guilty, what happened? Was he blinded by passion or frightened out of his wits, or did he want to get caught? I'm joined now by someone who has tackled these questions before in actually thousands of other cases, from Lacey Peterson to J.C. Dugard, but Paul Holes is most famous as the former cold case investigator who helped take down the Golden State Killer after decades on the loose. He is the author of the memoir Unmasked. Paul, I thought of you right away. We expected so little evidence in this affidavit, and it was a cascade of, frankly, mystery upon mystery, and yet we do have what we have. And what we have is that there was a bolo, a be on the lookout for white Elantra on November 25th. And I think it was the 29th that they knew that he had one, and they had his license with a description of him. They had so much so early. They had DNA on the, the snap of the knife sheath that day. I don't understand how it takes so long. I don't know your business, investigators, but help me.
Well, you have to understand that the affidavit is really a retrospective. And so the detective who's writing it is writing chronological order on when information came in. But when you start talking about this bolo for the white Hyundai Elantra, you have to understand that when they are initially investigating, they don't even have a license plate for this Elantra. So when they are now gathering data, going to the state's DMV and reaching out to other law enforcement agencies and their databases, they're getting thousands of bits of information of different registered owners of white Hyundai Elantras. Now, maybe Brian Kohberger's name was in that list, but they didn't know that he was the killer at that point in time. At the same time, you have this parallel process going on with the lab processing evidence, and it takes time. Now, they shockingly had this knife sheath that was left behind that ultimately had Kohberger's DNA on it, which is just, for me, it's just crazy that they had such great evidence. But it takes time to go through to process not only the DNA from this sheath, but they have mountains of other evidence in the case that the lab is probably working in batches. So it probably took some time, 7 days, 10 days before they get their initial DNA results back. So they are juggling multiple things that take time, and ultimately the stars aligned. The DNA added up. They had a suspect who had a white Hyundai Elantra, and then as they dug further, circumstantial evidence really cemented the case.
So that it's fascinating. I'm looking at this timeline, and I picked it all apart and made crazy notes looking through the affidavit. But November 29th, a Washington State University police officer gets an Elantra and takes it right to Kohberger's apartment. He sees that there's this Elantra. The bolo's been out for 5 days, or 4 days, and he sees this one at Kohberger's apartment. So he can read the plate, and he says it's a Pennsylvania plate. If you were to look at that plate, you got a stop on August 21st where there is body cam video with a guy with bushy eyebrows. And we know from day one that Dylan Mortensen said the guy in my house that night had bushy eyebrows. Then you get a second body cam, and that's on October 14th. And that one was also, this one was also Washington State University officers, and there is body cam, presumably to show bushy eyebrows. So you have 2 videos there, plus a license, a driver's license that gives a description exactly of the person that Dylan Mortensen described to the police. But then it looks like they didn't ask for the phone records, the historical phone records of this suspect, because he'd given his phone number during one of those traffic stops, right? He gave them his phone number during the August 21st. They didn't start looking for historics on that until December 23rd. That to me is a bit of a surprise.
Well, and again, I think this is where, the confusion comes in as, you have this Washington State University cop who sees this white Hyundai Elantra. But this is one of many tips that law enforcement is fielding at the time. So until they have something that causes them to focus on Kohberger, they're having to try to sort through all of these tips. Just because you have footage showing that you have a male that has bushy eyebrows, that isn't going to be sufficient to cause law enforcement to disregard all the other tips. This is where I believe that there's a likelihood that they had other more advanced DNA technology that was utilized that helped them focus in on Kohberger. And then once they focused in based on that kind of technology, now they started adding things up. Oh, he drives a white Elantra. Now you get the body cam footage. Now you get the cell phone records, and the circumstantial case starts to cement itself.
Did you have a bit of a flashback to the Golden State Killer? Because I gotta say, I heard in this affidavit that Brian Kohberger applied for an internship at the Pullman, Washington Police Department just in the fall, just a couple months ago. So presumably it is sometime around the murder, right? The murder's on November 13th, and sometime in the fall he's applying to be an intern with the cops, and the Golden State Killer is, of course, a cop, and of course the familial DNA that you worked to find him. Did you have that flashback?
No, absolutely. There are parallels here with Kohberger and D'Angelo. D'Angelo went to school and got his degree in criminal justice. He became an intern at Roseville PD, and then ultimately was a cop while he's committing fetish burgs and numerous sexual assaults in Northern California. Here, Kohberger's doing the same thing. In addition, look at the crime that Kohberger has been accused of. It's going into a residence at a time when the occupants are likely going to be asleep or falling asleep, and then killing them. That's exactly what the Golden State Killer was doing. I would not be surprised if Kohberger actually studied D'Angelo and the Golden State Killer case.
That is so creepy. So I got to ask you something, because you told me something off air that just shocked me. I only have a minute left. But when homicide detectives process the body, you said that they sometimes do not look for places where a sex fetish killer will mouth, and they won't think it's a sex crime. What did you mean by that?
Well, what I've seen across the nation, and even in California and jurisdictions next to mine, is when crime scenes are processed and the victims' bodies are processed, they often limit themselves from a sexual assault evidence standpoint to just collecting the 3 orifice swabs, oral, vaginal, rectal. And then if those are negative for just semen, and a pathologist says, I see no injuries to these orifices, they say, well, there's no evidence of sexual assault. But they often don't swab types of evidence that you can't see, such as saliva around the victim's mouth, in their hair, on their neck, on the intimate areas of their body, even down onto their toes or feet, where we sometimes get offender DNA and saliva. So this evidence is often overlooked. I don't know what they did in this case. Maybe they did a great job processing these victims' bodies. However, it wouldn't surprise me that due to the nature of Kohberger's background and the types of victims he's going after, that there's a possibility that there's a sexual component to this crime that was missed.
It is so fascinating. You have got to come back. We have a much longer conversation to have about this, because they said originally no evidence of a sex crime, but I promise you'll come back.
I will be back.
Paul Holes, always good to see you, author of Unmasked, and just one of the best detectives out there. Coming up next, we're going to look at parts of this affidavit that don't really seem to add up. Why? Almost 7 weeks to make this arrest of someone that they might have been able to identify from the get-go, especially with the DNA at the scene. Did that delay, did it potentially put innocent people at risk? That's next.
Okay, I'll turn it around, turn the YouTube people around too. I'll stay on for just a couple minutes after. Banfield goes on both platforms, on YouTube and on here. And answer a couple questions, and then I'll make an end of the day update for anybody who wants to see. Hopefully on YouTube it'll save the live in the first. I mean, obviously we've been streaming for a while, because almost 2 hours, because we've had Banfield. But the first part of it, we went over the affidavit in in really big detail to kind of go through, and we had it up on the screen. So anybody who wants to see it on YouTube, you can. If you want to read the affidavit on your own, though, I know I'm not trying to send you guys all over the place, but on my Instagram I uploaded all 19 pages of it. I did screenshots of it, edited it so you can see it there, clear and concise. So if you want to see the full affidavit where you can read it at your own leisure, it is on Insta. But yeah, if you want somebody to go through and go through it with you, or like walk through it and kind of break it down. We did do that earlier here on YouTube. Am I able to move the camera up higher? Yeah, I can. I'll look at it when I do it again. I think did Brian attend the memorial at school? So I mean, I've seen those videos, and I wasn't sure. I mean, it kind of looks like him, but no. But like, and obviously we don't know. But like, the fact that he went back to the crime scene right after, the morning of, that later in the morning after he committed the murders, I would not be surprised. Like, I would say that to me puts the likelihood of him going significantly higher to the memorial. That's my thought. I don't know if there's anything good and concise about Papa Rogers. That one is a little creepy, though. It is a little weird. Did they? They say it's cell phone never pinged. Yeah, well. So I talked about this when we broke down the thing. The cell phone, it's consistent. They have the cell phone leaving his residence in Pullman, and then it's turned off for a while, doesn't ping, and then shows back up again while he's on the road. So he was up and out and about during those times. I mean, the evidence is strong for this. I know that somebody online was saying that with the fact that we don't know what happened with Dylan, like for it to be, I'm wondering again if she is the passed out roommate. And she passed out during it and did not wake back up until somebody woke her up. Because I mean, it was already late. And that kind of stress, I can't even imagine the trauma that would have done. And a lot of times people are fight or flight, right? She did, or flight or freeze, I guess, fight or fight. She froze, like, and then maybe, being time, that type of trauma, maybe she went down. That's what I'm thinking is the only logical explanation on what happened with that. But anyways, the cell phone, though, it did ping afterwards. Flight, fight, freeze, fawn. Thank you. Fight, freeze, fawn. Yes. So, I personally don't think, Andrew, that there's an accomplice. I don't. I think that this is somebody who wants all the credit to himself. No, I don't think he planted the sheath. Do I think he's on the spectrum? I know some. Yeah, I do. I've said that. I think that most people are somewhere on the spectrum. I mean, like, literally everybody. I think some people are further than others. Oh, it's back on, and we'll turn it on after this, and we'll continue.
For about 7 weeks before he was arrested. Think of all the people that he came into contact with, classmates, neighbors in Washington, neighbors in Pennsylvania, people upstairs, downstairs, people at the rest stop. Wow. Imagine if that was you. Phil Waters is a retired homicide detective with the Houston Police Department, and during his career, he's investigated more than 400 homicide cases. I thought about you with this question. It just seems like such a long time when they had that sheath with the DNA on it in the car and the pings of the cell phones, etc. This guy was able to go to class for a couple weeks. He was able to travel the country, go shopping. It seems just scary that he was in front and beside and sometimes alone with a lot of people.
Well, true, but I will tell you this in terms of time from an investigative standpoint, from my experience and being involved in this type of an investigation, I can tell you that the thing that I've said all along that was going to break this case was the hard work and the due diligence of these detectives. They didn't stop, and this case brought it to this point of arresting this evildoer. I'm telling you, this was a rapid accumulation of evidence. They were able to put in the affidavit. They accumulated all those affirmative links. And he was under surveillance, I think, from the time that they realized that this is going to be where the evidence is leading them to.
Yeah, well, I mean, I hope, right? Especially if you're a classmate or if you're using a public bathroom with them. Wow. Holy cow. Okay, I only have a minute, but the Dylan piece, Dylan Mortensen sees him walking towards her and then turning and going out the door, and then she retreats in and closes the door. Is it possible that the police sent us a red herring with the information from the next morning? The roommates get up and they're trying to wake up their roommate and they call their friends and then they call the police and say there's an unconscious person. Is it possible all that's a red herring?
I don't think I'd call it a red herring. I think I would call it a dissemination of information that was needed to be framed in that particular way to protect that witness to begin with, and to not let on. I mean, there's certain things you're not going to release to the media, and I will tell you, I think those decisions were well made in this particular case.
I've got 10 seconds left here, but do you think the police were there at 4 in the morning, or do you think you really didn't get there till 11 in the morning? 10 seconds left.
I don't know, and that will come out eventually in the trial. Those types of particulars.
Phil Waters, as always, it's so great to have you, and I'm going to have you back because of the breaking news tonight. We had to cut our interview a little shorter, but I still have 1,000 questions for you given this affidavit. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
I'll try to have 1,000 answers for you, Ashley.
I know you'll have 1,001. Phil Waters joining us tonight.
Can I say one thing
400
real quick?
homicide cases.
Can I
Well,
say
I got
one
2
thing?
seconds to black. 2 seconds to black.
Okay,
Go.
I want to give
Yikes.
incredible kudos to the police department,
Okay.
Chief Frog, and all those folks.
Thank you,
Good
Phil.
job. Well done.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Okay, I'll stay out for just a couple minutes, do some questions. Then I will get off and go spend time with my kid. Alexa, turn on theater. It's off. All right, so let me turn you guys around here on. There we go. All right, so for those here, this is what I got going on. So I am on YouTube as well. For this, so I'm going to start doing a lot more on here because it gives me the ability to do more things. So if you want to follow me there, please do. Sorry for setting all of y'all's Alexas off. I apologize. That does happen. Hey, Doug. If you're new here, please consider following. I do stream Banfield pretty much every night while this is going on, so I will be doing it again tomorrow night and then having discussion. If you want to see the entire affidavit today, all 19 pages of it, it is pretty good. You can do so on my Instagram. I have it there. Or I think that the YouTube live that we're doing will save. And the first part of that live, we go right into breaking down that affidavit. I don't know how to do that, Razzles. I can possibly do that tomorrow. If this went pretty well, I could do it tomorrow. But yeah, if somebody wants to send me something, again, this is brand new for me. We're talking about Papa Rogers. Let me take a look. What are we doing? Send me. What are you sending me, and where are you sending it? And I can see if I can throw it back up. I can try. No, the show is finished. You like YouTube better than TikTok? It's Idaho like murders discussion something. It's a dumpster fire though. I'll say that. I think there's probably got to be blood in the car too. I know that at one point somebody on Banfield referred to the Elantra as a rolling crime scene. I will do a summary of Banfield after I get off of this. I won't do it again in the live because everybody just watched it. But I do an evening summary as well. Sometimes 2 summaries depending on how big the day was, like I did an earlier one today about some of the information that came out in the it is beyond a dumpster fire that came out in the affidavit. The University of Idaho case discussion. Post from Papa Rogers. Yeah, I'll tell you what, if you want to, let's do that. Yeah, send it. I'll tell you what, let's do that tomorrow night. I can get on a little bit earlier, Narco, if you're cool with it. I mean, let me know. And we can have a Papa Rogers discussion like before Banfield. Is that, well, let me see. Hold on. We're going to go to YouTube and see if we can pull something up here. Let me see what I can do here. Somebody wants me to pull up Papa Rogers stuff. So let me see, go into my messages here. I really need to go through my message, my messages. I haven't received it yet on Insta, but let me. I haven't received it. If you want to send the last message I got was from 18 minutes ago. That's all I got. If you want to send it, I can try to do that. Okay, we'll do tomorrow then. Let's do tomorrow. Yeah, let's do that. That way I can spend time with the kids. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do tomorrow. After this, I will get off. I will do a quick update for what we kind of talked about tonight. Yeah, somebody said Papa Roger's way off where the bodies were at too. Well, we can tell. Let's just have a conversation about it. Hold on. Not sure how it works, but news station might strike you on YouTube. Well, it didn't tonight. We'll see what happens. I don't know. I mean, TikTok hasn't. And TikTok is like the worst about this kind of stuff. We can have a conversation about Papa Rogers tomorrow. There is some weird stuff with it regardless. I mean, either it's a discussion that it could be him, and we can look at the weird stuff and see what's accurate and what's not, or we can have a discussion about coming on and posing as people. But yeah, let's do it. Let's do it tomorrow. We can maybe even pull up some of the dumpster fire that is the Facebook group. And maybe I'll understand how to work some of this stuff a little bit better. Like I said, this is my first time. Night, Dina. Anyway, so on TikTok, I'll post a video. I'll upload it here on YouTube as well once I'm done. Insta has the full affidavit if y'all want to read through it, and I will do a summary on this. Again, I am starting to move stuff more to YouTube. I'm going to be honest, like this, I'll let you see what I got going on right now. This is not the best setup of the rig, but this allows me to throw stuff up on the screen, and so we were able to like throw the affidavit up and go through it line by line, and everybody could see it. So I do want to start doing stuff more here, especially because like if I showed y'all, I have an account warning on TikTok because they are close to banning me because that is just what TikTok does. So yeah, I know that they do have some strict violations on that. Same name on YouTube, yes. But anyways, y'all have a great evening. I'll get you some updates, and then we will do this again tomorrow as things come out. So y'all have a great night. Everybody on YouTube, thank you guys for supporting on there, for the follows. On TikTok as well, thank you. I think I'm at 496 now. Let me look. I'm on my way to 500,000. I'm at 496,000 on trying to get to that 500. I know I missed the boat, Brittany, on Justin on YouTube. I'm sorry. I was trying to be consistent. I never thought I'd really start using YouTube. That was kind of it. But all right.